Thank you for tuning in to Tasteful Choices this week, where we prepared homemade pizza with a homemade whole grain crust, and we put some veggies on top and turkey pepperoni. And we found out how to improvise when somebody brings you the wrong kind of ingredient. We still used it, and I think most people thought it was okay. It was still pretty good. So that's a good skill to learn when you are cooking. So, pizza. Has anybody here made pizza from scratch before? Okay, you've made the dough. Have you made it with whole wheat flour or just the all-purpose white flour? Okay, so part of what we want to talk about tonight is how to increase whole grains in our diets, in the food we eat. And does anybody here know what a whole grain is? Do you know what a grain is? Can you name some of the different grains?
Wheat.
Wheat is a grain. What else?
Corn. Dried corn.
Corn is a grain. It can go as a vegetable and a grain, but it functions like a grain in our bodies. Any other grains? What do you eat for breakfast? Sometimes,
cereal.
Yeah, oats and cereal, which is made usually with oats or wheat, or we had some last week. Rice, okay. Rye, millet, those are all barley, kind of maybe more familiar grains. So what they do when they make the white flour is they strip a lot of the grain. They take off the bran, the outer shell, which contains most of the fiber and a lot of vitamins and minerals. And then they also take off the very inner part of the grain, which is the germ, and that has healthy fats, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals. So they take that and put it away. And so we're left with the middle layer, the white layer, which is called the endosperm, and that is mostly starch, okay? So what are we missing if they take those things away? What are some important things that we're missing in our fiber? Yeah, a lot of vitamins, minerals, healthy fats. So when you buy whole grain foods, like the whole grain, whole wheat flour, that has all the parts of the grain in there. So the brown rice we had last week, that has all the parts of the grain. So it's a lot healthier for us. Let's see. I'm just trying to think. Okay, so can you think of any foods where you currently eat the refined, the highly processed grain, where you could maybe switch to a whole grain? Bread, good. Bread is a pretty easy area to find whole grain bread. What else? Rice. You can pick brown rice. What about crackers, snack crackers or crackers? Yeah, you can find like, there are lots of whole wheat crackers out there that you probably eat now and don't even know they're whole grain. What about pasta? Oh, you made homemade pasta? That sounds pretty tasty. So you can buy whole grain, whole wheat pasta. And maybe 10 years ago when they started making that, it was pretty hard to eat. It wasn't very good, but they've done a lot with the formula, so it's pretty good now. And if you don't want to go full on, like use all whole wheat pasta, what's a way you could make a compromise?
Half and half.
Half and half, yep. Same with rice. So we're gonna make our own pizza crust tonight, and we're gonna make, we're gonna use half whole grain flour and half all-purpose flour. And so you can do that in almost anything you bake. Cookies, cakes, quick breads like banana bread. You can substitute half of the flour for white flour for whole grain flour. So give it a try. And one other thing, we don't really have labels here, but when you look at a label on the ingredients, did you guys look at labels last week? Okay, so if you want to know if it's whole grain or not, the very first word has to be whole. If it says crushed or cracked or enriched, that's not whole. You want it to say whole grain, okay? So now we're going to make the crust. So I've already measured my water, and all of you have these see-through measuring cups. They're, that way you can see exactly where the water comes. So you have to kind of lean down though so you know exactly where it is. And when you're making bread, does anybody know what temperature of water we should use?
Cold? Is it like warm?
You can use cold, but it will take a lot longer for the yeast to work. And hot would possibly kill the yeast. So we want to use a lukewarm water, which I believe is what comes out of the the sinks here. So I put it in there, and then the yeast. Everybody has a packet of yeast. This is about a tablespoon. So you can come up and get my knife if you want to cut it open, or scissors. Thank you. And then I'm just going to sprinkle it in here.
I don't like this one.
Don't you?
Isn't yeast living organism?
It is. This is dried, so it's not alive until it's activated with the water. In the old days, like I'm talking old days when you could only buy the wet, alive yeast, sometimes if that was too old or had too many, maybe got too warm, it would not work. But this dried, in all my years of baking, I've never had a packet that doesn't work. So it's not to say it won't sometime, but we've got that in there. And how much whole grain flour? Cup and a fourth? Cup and a half?
One cup and 1/4. 1 and 1/4.
1 and 1/4. Okay. So this is one thing that a lot of people do. I used to do this for a long time until somebody clued me in on it. You just will dig your scoop in there, right? And then you'll kind of do this, and then you'll add more. That actually, you're getting more flour than you need because it packs it down. So, did you learn that? So, either have a scoop in your flour bin or pour it in there. So, we're going to do this. And then you don't want to pack it down. Otherwise, you'll be getting, even if it's just a tablespoon too much, sometimes that can really make whatever you're making dry. And then you can use a knife, or in this case, I'm using the back of my cup. Just gonna put that in there. And then 1/4 of a cup.
The all-purpose.
It's so wheat.
Yeah, this is
What is it?
half cup.
It's 1.
Okay. There we go. Whoops, you want to do it over the bag. Because now we have whole wheat flour on our mushrooms, but that's okay. Okay, so everybody has a nice big wooden spoon. And then you're just going to stir the mixture. Everybody see what it's looking like? You can see it's pretty wet, right? So the next part, we add the oil and salt, about a teaspoon, half teaspoon? Half teaspoon? Okay, I don't have a half up here, so I'm just gonna put half in here. And maybe if someone could grab me some salt. It's no longer here.
It's in my head.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so you guys can make sure you find a half teaspoon. You can do that. And then a cup and a quarter of the white flour, right? Okay, that's a half, yeah. I'm gonna cut this off so it's easier to get into. Now, what I'm gonna suggest is that you do not add all the white flour at once. Okay, because it, depending on the weather, depending on the, it can be the temperature, how much humidity is in the air, that's gonna determine how much flour you need. And so if the air is really dry, you might not need as much flour. If it's really humid out in the summer, you might end up adding a little more flour. And it's always easier to add than to take away. So I've made bread before where I've added too much flour, and I thought, well, let's see, I'll put some water in there. It's a bad idea. You have to just mix it, and it changes things. So we need a cup and a quarter, right? Okay. Did I put the salt in there?
Yeah.
Okay. See it? And so, have you ever heard that when you make bread dough, the consistency should be like your earlobe? Everybody feel your earlobe?
Don't worry, guys. It just means we're eating our earlobes.
But you know, it's kind of soft, but it's firm but soft still at the same time. Okay, now see, this is very close. I'll just add a little more.
And then won't we be adding more flour when you need this dough?
Possibly. You have to see how if it's sticky, then you would. Okay, but just remember, the more flour you add, the drier your crust or cake or bread or whatever is going to be. So then at this point, I think you can probably do it pretty much just with stirring. But do you see how it's all together now? You guys want to check it out? This is how you're going to want it to look. Okay. And then I'm going to take some off of the spoon. And then I might knead it just a little bit.
Are we going to flip it like so people do on commercials?
Well, I don't have that skill down. So it won't be me teaching you that.
It'd be better not to attempt it, guys.
Maybe.
Just have to
We don't want pizza dough on the ceiling of the home ec room.
Well, if it gets on the ceiling, it's easy. You just gotta wait to catch it. And then when you catch it, you still got it.
Yeah, we don't know what's been on that ceiling.
They're cooking it anyways, doesn't all the germs
Okay,
come off.
so now you see how it's not hard. It still is elastic.
You still have to knead though with this?
No, we won't have to. And you know, if we wanted a different kind of bread, we might want to knead it more, but we don't want we kind of want our crust to be kind of airy, and it doesn't have to be real strong. But now as I'm doing that, I'm thinking maybe a little more flour. Okay, because see, it's still a little bit sticky. But then when you get that done, this is the first thing you're going to want to do when you get back to your station, or at least somebody will work on this, okay? And this is a quick rise yeast. But you still, it develops more flavor the longer it takes to rise. So then you can set that aside, and I would generally cover it with saran wrap. If you're at home, a towel, a clean towel. But if you don't cover it, it will dry out, okay? And it also creates some warmth in there to help it rise. So now we're gonna do the vegetables. Do you see how much flour I have left? It's quite a bit, right? I might need it later when we roll it out, so you can just set it there, yep. Okay, and so now, what kind of veggies do you guys like on your pizzas? You do? Awesome. I was afraid that nobody was going to want mushrooms.
I don't like mushrooms.
I didn't get any fruit. So if someone in your group doesn't like mushrooms, I would say either you can pick it off or you can just do half or 3/4 or quarter. Does that sound okay? So for mushrooms, do you remember what we do with our non-cutting hand, the hand that holds the product? The claw, exactly. And what do we do with the tip of the chef's knife?
Keep it on the
Okay, and do we saw? No.
Should we cut the mushroom in half before we eat? Or
Well, and why would you do that?
so that it doesn't slide away? Or
So you have a flat surface? So you can do that, or what I do sometimes, if I want a whole, a bigger slice, I'll just cut that little corner off and then flip it over. See, like that. But it's up to you, because it's up to you. But your instinct is right. You want a flat surface. So if you did it in half, you just do that and go like this, right? Okay. And if you really cut these mushrooms small, then nobody would even know that they're in your pizza. Then tomatoes. We've had to cut tomatoes before, right? Okay.
I just like cutting tomatoes a lot. Confusing.
So you probably want, either you can do like real thin slices, and for the tomatoes, you want to use a serrated knife. Okay, and then we have pepper. Do you guys like peppers? You do, don't you?
Yes.
Good.
I like them with ranch.
I like them cooked in
They're really good with
Okay, so we cut them in bigger chunks for the stir fry, but for the pizza, you can cut them in little pieces or thin, a dice. So it's up to you again. This is where you can be creative. You can do this. Okay, and then onions. So you guys haven't cut onions yet, have you?
Ooh, I love cutting onions.
I mean, in here we haven't done it. Okay, so there's the stem end and then the root end, and you want to cut it in half. So you cut right through the center lengthwise. But then you cut off the stem end, and this is a kind of a cool way to cut an onion. You want to keep this root end on, and you can peel that skin off, And there you have half an onion, and here's your handle. So instead of the claw, well, you still want to keep your fingers in, but you have something to hold on to. And then we're going to do little cuts this lengthwise, but don't go all the way through, okay? I mean, you can go all the way through to the bottom to the cutting board, but not to the end. You want it all connected still.
Well, if you cut it so you get exact icing, you know, instead of having to move forward.
And then again, you want to be very careful. So I will turn my product so I don't have to cut myself. Okay, there. Now you hold on. So there are all these cuts. Tip down. Whoa.
It's like professional.
Right?
Does that make you feel professional?
It does make me feel professional.
That's why I was taught.
So when you cut it like that, do your eyes water or just?
Yeah, they will. It just depends on the onion. So, but this one isn't very strong because I can't even feel it. So, you know, you might not need the whole onion if you want to put on. It's up to you. So now, you guys, do you like to put your vegetables on the pizza raw or partially cooked?
I like to cook the pizza with the vegetables on it.
Right, but cook the pizza with raw vegetables or with cooked vegetables?
I like it raw.
Wait,
Okay.
With like a little bit.
So there's an option. I'm gonna put raw vegetables on my pizza, but if you want to saute them lightly, okay, you can come and get a frying pan, and then you'll need just a little bit of, you can either use olive oil or canola oil, and what you want, the reason why you do that is to get some of the liquid out of the vegetable. And so then after you saute it, you want to put it in a small colander and let some of the water drain out, the liquid drain out, okay? That will help your crust from being soggy, okay? So you guys will have to figure out in your groups how you want to do that. And then we will assemble it after. So you guys can go to your stations now, make your dough, and prep your veggies, and saute them if you want or not. So I'm going to put just a little bit of flour down, just because I think it's going to be a little bit sticky. And if you have a little bit on your hand, that's good too. And then I'm going to just toss it again kind of gently with the flour. But you see how it's still nice and soft? It's not too dry. Mm-hmm. And if you think about like a rubber band, when you pull it, it goes back in. You don't want that to happen to your bread dough. You don't want it to be so tight and stiff that when you push it out, it keeps shrinking back to the middle. Has anybody done that before with pizza dough? I have. It's like you can't get to fill up the pan, right? Okay, so we're just going to let this sit a little bit and rest. And then you can either spray your pan or you can put a little bit of oil and just spread it around. That's what we're going to do. And you can actually spread it with your hands, because having a little bit of oil on your gloves when you pat the dough out is going to be a good thing, okay? So, and I believe everybody's ovens are preheated. We did that for you. But it's, you bake the pizza quite high. It's at 450. And if you have time, you can pre-bake your crust.
That's what we do at our house.
Okay, and we don't have time in this class to do it, so we're just going to put it on raw. But if you have time, sometimes it's nice because it's a little crisper. All depends on what you like. Okay, and so then do you see how I'm pushing? Mm-hmm. I'm not tearing, so you don't want to tear it. You want to push it. It goes pretty quickly once you get a feel for it. And you know, if you like really thin crust, you might not need all this dough, and you could possibly use a rolling pin to roll it out. But if you like thick crust, it sounds like Levi you do, you know, don't mess with that. Okay, and then you're gonna make, someone can do this right away when you get back. Wipe off your can, remember, and then put the tomato sauce in a bowl. Oh my gosh, I just see that it's Mexican style.
That's, yeah. We were looking at it and we're like, why is it
What
so
is
dark?
that? Interesting. So we're gonna have Mexican pizzas,
It's hot.
Mexican style pizzas.
Spicy.
Is it spicy?
Yes.
Oh, good. And then you put in that a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Well, the tomato sauce is, I misread, I thought I read the label, but I didn't, apparently.
So
Okay.
if you do it at home, you can probably get your own sauce. Maybe?
Just get plain tomato sauce. Yep. And then you can do that too. And then I'm going to put my garlic in my tomato sauce. But you can also, maybe if you chopped it, maybe you sauteed it.
Yeah, that's what we
Yep,
did.
that's totally cool. You can do it however you want. So then, you put it on and then find a rubber scraper like this spatula.
So much dark. It's like so much
Yeah.
darker than normal.
This, the spices they put in there, they probably put paprika.
I've been.
Nice spicy pizza.
It will be awesome, I think. Sometimes the best food we make happens when we
Make mistakes.
make a mistake, right?
Yeah, like my dad, he didn't add enough flour, but it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't have to use all the sauce if you don't like a saucy pizza, or you can. And then I'm gonna put, now you might want,
We're gonna put some of our stuff.
I have seen before that people put all the vegetables that they cut on the pizza, and that gets really thick and heavy and very juicy. And if you like that, go for it. But if you like a little drier pizza, you might not want to pile everything on, okay? So it's up to you. Okay, and then we have, did you notice this is turkey pepperoni? And do you know why we chose that? So what is there? A lot less fat, yep. So you can just put this on.
Are you putting it all over the cheese?
I'm gonna put everything, that's how I make pizzas, I put cheese on the top.
Yeah.
But I know some people don't do that, so I think you can make it the way you traditionally make it or would like to.
Some underneath.
I know some people, yeah, some people put some under and then some on top.
It like scares me. Like we started making homemade pizza and then we bought like a frozen pizza.
Yeah.
Everything was on top. And I got kind of scared.
You got scared?
Yeah, because I'm like, where's the cheese?
Oh, And I'm gonna put, so this is a great way to get veggies too, is to just add them to your pizza.
And put on the cheese if you have anyone that doesn't like veggies, don't tell them it's enough.
That's what I
Exactly.
tell my little cousins when they come over and eat pizza, they're like, there's no veggies in here, right? And we're like, nope,
No.
totally not.
Well, and the thing is, if people like pizza or like spaghetti sauce, chances are they're eating onions and peppers and all those all the time. They just don't know it. So you guys will be the ambassadors for spreading the love of vegetables with all your younger siblings and cousins. Okay. And then you can put the cheese on. The cheese.
Dairy.
Yeah, so what are the food groups in this?
Dairy, vegetables,
Rotten milk, shredded.
Grain, whole grain, vegetables,
Everything but fruit.
everything but fruit. And does anybody like fruit on pizza?
I like pineapple.
I sometimes like pineapple on it, but then I just
I do
like, the
too.
Hawaiians must eat it up.
Yep. So you don't have to use your whole bag of cheese. So there it's ready. And then I would definitely take off your gloves before you put the pizza in the oven.
So it does melt.
Yes, okay. And then we'll put them in the oven and they will bake for about 20-25 minutes. And then during that time, we're going to work on our extreme meal makeovers, okay? So go for it. Go make your pizzas.